Shri Gajanan Vijay Granth, Chapter 21. Jai to thee, O multi-splendored! Jai to thee, the indestructible! Jai to Lord of things near and far! Jai to the King of this cosmos! You call yourself the Savior of the fallen. You forgive sinners with great affection. This action brings to you further significance. I request you to ignore my sins too without reservation. Solid clothes are brought to water to get laundered. I have come to you. Don't ignore me, please. Earth doesn't discard a thorny tree. You save both sinners and the blameless without discrimination or attachment. Sun needs no extra glow to displace darkness. Its rise is enough to devour the gloominess. Concepts of sin and virtue are your own process. You create the sinners to uphold your worth. Whatever it is, please relieve me from this dense danger with your blessings, O Pandurang. You are so powerful, I have no one else to support me in the mundane muddle. Now I turn your attention, dear listeners, to this final climax. You have been with me all through till here. It calls for good fortune to listen about this saint. Those who have faith are saved from pain and miseries of these days. An incident at the temple is proof ample. At the construction of the temple, a laborer was working at the top with a mason. He lost his balance and fell. He slipped while passing a stone to the mason and came down from a height of 30 feet. He fell on a heap of stones. People saw him tumbling down and assumed the certainty of his demise. But it was otherwise. A miracle swept the scene. He was unhurt and came down safe and sound. Someone had caught him in the air and left him down to stand on his feet. But no one was seen in the region. People were happy to hear and know that it was the saint who saved the person. Maharaj would not let anyone get hurt in the process of temple construction. The laborer was most lucky to feel the touch of the divinity at this juncture. A Rajput lady afflicted by an evil spirit came to Shegau from Jaipur district. God Dattatreya advised the lady to come to Shegau on Ram Navami to enable her to get rid of the trouble with the blessings of Gajanan Swami. She came with her children on the appointed day. The festival had started on Pratipada, the first day. Crowds had gathered to celebrate Ram's incarnation. This time there was a hall under construction. Stone pillars measuring 5 feet by 18 inches were laying around supportless. Work was suspended for the time being. After the celebration, people rushed for prasad. The lady went to a pillar for support, which fell on her and the children. Alas! People were afraid that she had died under the weight. No one even knew her name and address. They lifted the pillar and pulled her out straight, gave her a glass of water and rushed her for a check to Dr. Lobo across the street. She was a surgeon and devotee of Christ. She examined the Rajput lady with great care and was amazed to see that she was unhurt. The falling of a pillar on her had a different significance. With this action, the saint liberated her from a spirit. After getting exorcised from the evil, the lady and her children returned to Jaipur safe and sound. Similarly, at another festival, a large beam fell on the head of Nayak Naware, a worker, who miraculously escaped unhurt by the saint's benevolence. Ramachandra, son of Krishnaji Patil, was a sincere devotee of Maharaj. One noon, the saint went to his house in an ascetic mendicant's garb. He called Ramachandra and asked for food to eat. Ramachandra glanced at him. He looked like Maharaj. He respectfully brought the ascetic in and offered him a short plank seat to sit. He worshipped the guest and stood there still. Thereupon the ascetic said to Patil, I have come here today to tell you something. Don't be troubled by the debts you have. They will be cleared in days shortly. River Godavari dries up in summer, but rain fills it in a few hours. Prosperity will soon dance at your door. The house where I eat never suffers defeat. Bring me a dish full of delicacies and some clothes to dress in. Any offerings you make to me will positively reach the Almighty, provided the donor is a pious devotee of all the pervading divinity. Ramachandra brought him delicious dishes, which the ascetic enjoyed in great happiness. When he offered dakshina to the guest, he returned the 5 rupees and said, I don't want any money. I came here to ask you to take up the management of the temple. Instead of dakshina, give me this service. I don't see anyone more proficient than you to take up this pious action. Your ailing wife will regain her health. I will tie a talisman around your son's neck to keep evil spirits away from him. This job I am asking you to take up is a difficult one, as your own people may at times try to stall your efforts. The job is like working in a tiger's hide. Each move is to be monitored with great skill. Don't breed any jealousy in your mind. Let each move of yours be honest and kind. Don't take up a project against the authority. Respect saints and sages, discard illogicality. If you follow this simple guide, God will always be on your side. Let your expenses not be more than your income. Never show off beyond your competence. Don't let sages and saints go empty handed when they come to you on their own or invited. Adore these saintly personalities. God dislikes them who insult such dignitaries. Never ever think of harming blood relations. Respect your relatives with established traditions. If you at all lose your temper, let it not be deeper than a superficial cover. Like a jackfruit, coarse outside with loving pardon hidden inside. And lastly, remember, I am always with you. After tying a talisman around his neck, the ascetic disappeared in a moment. Ramachandra thought over the incident all day. He arrived at a conclusion that the guest was Maharaj, who had come to advise him in an ascetic garb. The same night Maharaj appeared in his dream to remove lingering doubts from his mind. Maharaj had great affection for his devotees. His glorious life story is a savior of humanity. But it does require a resolute faith to experience his magnanimity. Now, in this saga of the great sage, we have come to a stage where we recapitulate the glory of his victory. The first chapter, after obeisance to deities, tells the stories of how the saint appeared on Maghavadya Saptami near the house of Devidas, a devotee. Bhankatlal and Damodar were the two who recognized the saint true. In the second, he attended the Kirtan of Govind Bhau and showed a miracle to Pitambar Shimpi and then went to the house of Bankat Bhavani Ram. Third chapter depicts the offering of heroin to the saint. This was done by an ascetic against a promise of fulfillment of his dream. Maharaj started smoking heroin. Water touched by his feet had a salutary effect. It saved Janrao Deshmukh from death. Maharaj explains the types of death, throws out Vitoba for his deceit. The fourth deals with the arrogance of Janaki Ram. He doesn't give burning coal for the saint's pipe. Because of this, his feast is spoiled. He begs pardon of the saint and the food turns to be edible again. Janaki Ram becomes his devotee. Maharaj asks Chandu for Kanholi sweets. He liberates Madhav after showing life after death. Disciples perform Vasant Puja with great mirth. Chapter 5 depicts Maharaj sitting in a yogic posture at Pimpalgaon. It was at the Mahadev temple where the cowherds worshipped him. They all were at Pimpalgaon when Bankatlal went to bring him back. Then he went to Akoli to liberate Bhaskar. He got water in a dry well. Bhaskar comes under the saint's care. The sixth chapter describes Bankatlal's farm. People had gathered to eat corn on the cob. Bees attacked the invitees, who ran away except Bankatlal. The incident tested his devotional matter. Bees' sting had no effect on Maharaj. He went to a court to meet Narsingji, who was the disciple of Kotasha Ali. He stayed there for a few days only. He had brotherly relations with Narsingji. Then he went to village Shivar on the banks of Chandrabhaga river to meet Vrajabhushan. He then visited the Hanuman temple and stayed there for the Shravan celebrations. The seventh chapter tells something queer. It is about the Patil brothers who were rough in their behavior. They spoke to Maharaj with arrogance. Hari lost a wrestling bout with the saint. With the miracle of sugar canes, their ego shriveled. He blessed Kandu Patil with a son. Bhikya was his name. Saint asked him to feed people with mango juice every year. Patil brothers started respecting the seer. Chapter 8 talks of a dispute of saga of a family feud between Patil and Deshmukh. Mahar Chaukidar lodged a complaint against Patil. An offence was registered against him. But he was exonerated by the saint's blessings. Maharaj recited Vedas in front of Telangana Brahmins and proved his authority over the scriptures. He stayed in Krishna's garden at the temple of Shiva. Then he explained a few lines of Gita to Brahmagiri ascetic and crushed his ego. Here he was unhurt by a burning cot, conveying that fire can do a saint no harm. The ninth chapter witnesses a wild horse turned. A person who reminded of his vow to bring heroin. Maharaj with disciples went to Balakrishna's house. This was at Balapur on Das Navami day, where Balakrishna was given darshan of Ramdas, and all his doubts were cleared away. Chapter 10 takes us to Amaravati to meet Balabhau of spiritual identity. Ganeshappa and Chandrabai surrender their worldly belongings at the feet of the saint and gets his blessings. Maharaj blessed Ganesh Dada Kaparde. Balabhau was beaten by an umbrella one day to test his devotion. A naughty cow was calmed down. Ghude's hypocrisy was exposed. Chapter 11 tells of Bhaskar's dog bite. Maharaj takes him to Triambakeshwar where he met Gopal Das at Nashik. At the request of Zyam Singh, Maharaj visited Adagaon. Bhaskar expired and was interred at Dwarkeshwar by the side of Satibai's resting place. Crows were ordered to stop the menace. Ganu Javari was saved from an explosion in the well. Chapter 12 tells story of Bachulal. Pitambar Shimpi wears clothes given by Maharaj. At Kandoli, Maharaj brings leaves to a barren tree. Pitambar stayed at Kandoli till he lived on. Now, let us go to chapter 13. A new temple was built at Chekgaon. The saint came there in a cart carrying sand. Zyam Singh took Maharaj to Mundagaon. Rains stopped the feeding program. Zyam Singh gave his property to Maharaj. Pundalik was saved from plague infection. Ganga Bharati was cured of leprosy. In chapter 14, Bandu Tatya got lucky. He found buried treasure and freed himself of all his debts. This was all due to the blessings of the seer. On Somvati Amavasya, he went through Narmada river. Boat carrying him got a hole at bottom. Narmada closed it by delicate hands of hers. A betel leaf was sent to Madhavant. Chapter 15 describes the Akola scene where Tilak came for Shiva Jayanti. He was given Bhakhari as prasad. Sridhar Kale was not allowed to go abroad. In chapter 16, Pundalik was restrained from going to Anjangaon. Maharaj sent Paduka to him with Zyam Singh. He enjoyed Bhaji Bakar brought by Kawar. Tukaram was relieved of a gunshot which entered his head near the ear. Chapter 17 tells of his travel to Vishnusa staying at Malkapur, when police prosecuted him for being nude. Mehtab Shah was sent back to Punjab advising him to command community's harmony. Effects of an evil spirit were removed from Bapurao's wife. Ganga and Godavari waters were brought to a court well site. Chapter 18 tells the story of Bhaija and how Dr. Kawar's boil was cured by sacred ash. Maharaj goes to Pandrapur with disciples and Bapuna. Bapuna Kale was given darshan of Vithoba. A devotee from Kavate Bhadur caught cholera infection. Maharaj cured him in a minute's fraction. To remove the ego of an orthodox Brahmin, a dead dog was brought back to life. Chapter 19 brings blessings of Kashinath Pant. Gopal Bhuti takes the saint to Nagpur as guest. Hari Patil brings him back from the feast. Maharaj meets Sri Vasudevanand Saraswati. Balabhau had some doubts about the meeting. Maharaj removes those doubts. He protects grains from donkeys grazing. Narayan dies at Balapur, a consequence of beating Maharaj. Saint blesses Jhakade, who gets married as he wished. At Kapiladhara, Nimonkar gets his darshan. As service to Maharaj, Tukaram gives his son Narayan. Maharaj goes to Pandrapur, takes permission from Vithoba and returns from the tour. In the month of Bhadrapada on Rishi Panchami, the saint of our times took Samadhi. Chapter 20 narrates miracles after the day. Those with faith get darshan and blessings even today. Chapter 21 is the climax of the story summarizing the happenings in the journey. This effort has been made for the devotees to enjoy the essence of saint's history. Several incidents do occur, those remind us of his existence. Contributions came in ample for the construction of the temple. It is a majestic structure with no parallel in the world, with rest houses in all quarters for the devoted visitors. Listing the donors will be a long process, so given here are important names. Hari Kukaji Patil, Banaji of Sangvi, Ganaji of Umri, Misaji of Batwadi, Gangaram of Ladegaon, Bagu Nandu, Gujabai, Banabai of Akola, mother of Sukadeo Patil, all of them donated in thousands. There were other donors to the list. Ramachandra Krishnaji Patil, Dhattu Bikaji, Sukadevji of Palaskad, Marthand Ganapati, resident of Shegaon, Ratanlal Bhalchand, Dattulal and Bisanlal of Panchgavan, Ambar Singh of Takli, Kisan Bale Mandelkar, Vithoba Patil Chavayarkar, Gangaram of Hasanapur. All these donors got together in devotion and donated generously for the construction. Around the Samadhi were built halls, offices and kitchens to serve visitors all. Yet much remained to be completed. Thus a novel idea was initiated. Each landlord paid an anna per rupee of his revenue as religious duty, and each cartload of commodity coming to the market paid half anna per rupee to the kitty. They all paid the amount happily, as it was used as construction money. Many fire worships were performed for collection. 4 of them were great celebrations. Kisan Lal Sethji performed Satchandi Anushtan, inviting many learned Brahmins to perform. The procedure of this worship is complicated. Any error in the process is not tolerated by goddess Chandi. This fire worship is performed under great tension. Bankat Lal, father of Kishan Lal, was a great devotee of Maharaj. On the last day of the performance, he got such a sickness that he was sinking to death. Everyone was worried and wondered why such a thing should threaten his health when the Satchandi Yagna was in process. Bankatlal said to Kisan, "My son, don't be upset. My savior Sri Gajanan will set the things right. So go ahead and perform the yagna with correct rituals. Saint protect his devotees will remove all obstacles." It all turned out to be correct. Bhankatlal soon got well with the blessings of the saint. During this worship, a lady under the influence of an evil spell was also relieved from the menace and went home well. Banaji Tidke, Sangavikar, Gujabai of Kasura, Vaman Shyamrao of Chapadgaon also performed yagna at Samadhi at Shigao. Thus many religious functions were held. Sri Gajanan Maharaj is a great saint. So long people were pious in their stance, Vidarbha was a happy piece of land. With decrease in faith, downfall began. The yield from farms dwindled to a lower mark. The saint couldn't bear such a disorder. Therefore, probably he conceived himself underwater. In fact, the foundation of Samadhi site was built with mortar from depth of 30 feet and there was no reason for water to leak. Thus, it was felt that Maharaj was upset at Vidarbha's attitude of neglect. He thus collected water around him. If people of Vidarbha desire to win again, they should start worshipping the saint. This should be with great faith. If not, more despair they may have to face. Whatever is sown in the land of Sri Gajanan will bring back a yield in multiple of 1,000,000. Grain sowed on rocks will bring nothing back. Whenever service to saints is ignored, the result is famine in the region around. Religion is like a tiger in your psyche's den. If it is not there, jackals of bad thoughts will dominate the cave. Devotion is like a watch's woman divine. Its absence resembles a concubine who brings disgrace to a person, spending time in her association. Don't deviate from the path of religion and don't drift away from faith's conviction. Don't fight amongst yourselves. This alone will increase your strength. Behavior of this nature will surely brighten your future. Visit Shigao at least once a year for darshan of Gajanan, the great seer. Listen to these prayers once a year. Listening 21 chapters of this narration is like offering as many modaks to Sri Gajanan. Or consider these chapters as 21 tender twigs of durva grass and offer them each with the listening of this devotional recitation. With friendly feelings of human nature, lend joy to the entire atmosphere. It is like rays of the moon taking over the night, which should be reckoned as a great delight, as the Ganesh Chaturthi festival bright. Consider each letter here as a Durva blade and its meaning as a Modak sweet. Offering of Durva and Modak should be done in the form of listening. These verses are authentic and not mere fictional writing. A non-believer here is a loser. One who listens to this with faith regularly will achieve what he desires. This holy book is like River Ganga, with events as water and the verses as waves. This biography is like the wish-fulfilling tree with chapters as branches and stanzas as leaves. He who has faith will achieve the saint's blessings. He will be protected by the divinity in times of difficulty. The volume is like the wish-granting crystal which gives you all you desire, provided you have full faith in the endeavor. Every house where this holy story of Sri Gajanan is listened daily will achieve perpetual prosperity. By listening to this book, poor will get wealth, sick persons will regain their health, infertile will be blessed with a child, those desiring a son will get a male offspring. The listener will get a selfless friend. All his anxieties will come to an end. One who listens to this on Dashmi, Ekadashi and Dwadashi will be bestowed by the saint with prosperity. He who listens to the entire book on Guru Pushya Day in one sitting will achieve fulfillment of all desires and well-being. Presence of the book in the house will keep away all sort of evil spirits from your way. This is the magnitude of the treatise which can be experienced by faithful devotees. Only Rajahamsa birds can enjoy Manasarovar's bliss. Likewise, this composition is for saintly people. Our land had many saints in the past. Dhyaneshwar, Meera, Mehta, Kabir, Nama, Savata, Chokamahar, Gora, Badohala, Damaji, Ainath at Umbarkhed, Sakaram at Amalner, Dev Mamaladar, Yashwant or Manik Prabhu at Hamnabad. Similar to them is Sri Gajanan Maharaj of Shigao. My only request to the devotees is that they love the saint wholeheartedly, to enable them to liberate themselves from the birth and death cycle eternally. Now I request Sri Gajanan Maharaj to free me from all my despair. I have just been your spokesman. Please show me the right path of salvation. I hate everything that is evil. Let me keep up my routine of visiting your shrine till the end of my life. Let my love for saints stay alive. Give me the pleasure of residing on the banks of Godavari. Let me be self-sufficient to avoid beggary. Please ensure that you will be around me. I am at the feet of saints. From you I beseech safety. O Gajanan, this book narrates happenings with the inspirations from your blessings. Ratan Sa's archives at the monastery have been the source of this glorious story. Nothing here is based on imagination. I cannot be responsible for omissions and commissions. Even then, if there are any mistakes, I beg your saintly pardon for my sake. Writing in Marathi was completed by Das Ganu with blessings of Sri Gajanan Maharaj in the morning of the first day of the year called Pramati Samvatsar. It was Wednesday in the month of Chaitra of Shaka 1861. It was written at Shigao and presented to Sri Gajanan Maharaj. Let these treaties bless the devotees. Jai Gajanan.